Good evening, everybody. We'll be getting started very shortly. We've got 7 people in the room. And I'm going to get started in just a second. Good evening, everybody. Oh, hang on. We'll be getting a nasty little delay there, which is not so good. Don't want that. I'm just getting set up, folks. 8 people, 7 people. Any advances on 7 people coming in this evening? Hopefully. Okay, let's drop down to 6 now. 5. Dear. So I did have people here, and they've all gone. That's a shame. Stephen Greenwood is here, though. He says good morning. Good morning to you too. We are going to get started shortly, really, quite honestly. Evening, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome to my stream. Hopefully, we've got good audio quality here. And hopefully, we've got reasonable picture quality too. It'd be nice, wouldn't it? Sometimes I realize it's a bit hit and miss. Some weeks we get really, really great quality, and some weeks we get, it's pixelated and freezing, and it's not very nice to watch. So hopefully it's a bit better. We've only got 7 people here, which is a little bit of a shame. I would like some more people. That would be wonderful to get some more people. So let's see. Live now. Go to the link in the OP. I'm just going to copy this around a bit. I am live now. All right, now hopefully we should get a few people here. We have 11, which is better than it was 2 seconds ago. Miles says audio is great. Hey, Miles, good to see you. But video is fuzzy. Yeah, make sure your settings are to 720 HD. That's the best I can do. Plus, we're also hampered by my low upload speed on the internet. Let's see who we got here. Bobby is here, and Beatrice Dewberry is here. Riffman Rob is here. Peter is here. It's 1 a.m. where I am, but it's all worth being a bit tired in the morning when it's the Lipsham Studio Show. Oh, you're so kind, Peter. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Raina says, sorry, just finished upgrade to High Sierra. Well, good luck with that. Yeah, I hear all sorts of interesting things about High Sierra. Yeah, mixed reviews. I think some people are really getting along with it very, very nicely, and some people are not. I guess it's just one of those things with an OS. Mac OSs these days appear to be a little bit hit or miss. So how is everybody? Hope we're all doing well. We got 12 people in here just now, which is awesome. Yeah, I do apologize for the picture quality. And unfortunately, I don't think there's very much I can do about that. So hopefully it's not going to be too prohibitive for our stream tonight. If not, then I guess we will have to abandon the stream and try again next week. Because I can see that it's actually completely frozen just now. Oh, man. Yeah, it's a little bit out of focus, it's a bit fuzzy, and I'm sorry about that. But yeah, I am unfortunately, as I have said, at the mercy of my upload speed. Peter says, any thoughts on topics for this fine evening? I have had a few thoughts on topics for this evening. However, I have just spent the last hour trying to improve the speed of my broadband, or at least trying to get the upload speed better, but it's not really working. Bobby says, I'm so Vertigo kicking in. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, mate. Stephen says, did your new gear arrive? New gear? I am expecting some new gear, and it hasn't arrived as yet, but I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will in due time. MJN Studios is here, my good friend Mike. Good to see you, mate. And he has a question, which is an excellent question. Mastering, what are acceptable levels? Well, there's the whole loudness wars question right there, to be honest. Acceptable levels. Depends who you talk to. I subscribe to dynamic range mastering and dynamic range mixing, which means I want my music to have contrast between loud and quiet, or louder and quieter, that contrast. Because, I think all music should have that dynamic range, regardless of genre. So really, there is this thing where if you have it slammingly loud going into your limiter on the post of your master in the mastering page. In fact, I can actually show you this. I can show you this. Let me just get Studio One up and running, and we'll have a look at this. Mike, I know you're talking about LUFS, so we can discuss that. Now, my good friend and fellow Brit, Ian Shepherd, is an extremely experienced, extremely knowledgeable, and exceptionally talented mastering engineer. And he really is the guy to go to for this kind of stuff. Update mastering file, cancel. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen because you guys cannot currently see it. And just a second, what's going on here? Why can't I share? Share screen, share entire screen, share. Alrighty, I'm just going to flip back to the chat any second now. You should be able to see my screen, which you can't yet because it's frozen. And there we go. Now you can. Good. Okay, let's go back to Studio One. Now, unfortunately, when I'm looking at Studio One, until I can get a second monitor up and running, I cannot see what you guys are talking about at the moment. So just bear with me. So in the mastering page, what is the acceptable level for LUFS? Good question. And here's my take on it. Here's my answer. And not everybody is going to subscribe to this. The way I like to see it is if I use peak on this meter here, I'm aiming for my master to never ever get closer than -1 dB of true peak. And the reason for that is if you are wanting to process this into an MP3, you want to avoid intersample distortion as much as you possibly can. I'm just flipping over to headphones whilst we do this so we don't get any bleed back into the speakers. I'd forgotten to switch them off when we started, which is not very clever. So that's pretty much where the mouse is hovering just now, -1, that is where I set my limiter to. If I open up the limiter, you will see that I have the ceiling and threshold set to -1, and I basically drive the input until this is only just being touched a hair. And that to me is a good level for the end of my mastering chain. And then you want to just take a look at these numbers here, because this gives you the integrated loudness. This is your long range loudness, which is set to EBU R128, because that's the loudness standard for broadcast in the European Union. And there's a different agreement for the United States and Canada, which I forget what that's called. If you go to my YouTube channel after this stream is finished, and I've done a whole, I think I did as part of my Studio One 3.5 series, I did a 2-part video looking at the project page, and I made reference in there to what it is. I think it's something like 885 or something. I can't remember what it's called. So in the EU, it's EBU R128, which is the broadcast standard for loudness, which came in 2013 and was rolled out over a 2-year period, so that every broadcaster, be that radio or television or film or whatever, had to conform to a loudness normalization standard of, I think it is -24 LU, I believe. I can't actually quite remember. I do have the documentation for it because I have looked at it when I made that video. So yeah, go check out that video and that'll give you a more detailed answer on that. But yeah, I basically try and allow my my limiter to basically catch any peaks that go over -1, because I do not want to get into sample peaking, and I also want to preserve the dynamic range. Now, my RMS is basically the distance between the peak and the average. So I like to have a nice dynamic range of about 9 or 10. So basically the difference between RMS and my true peak, I like to have of about 9 or 10. Somewhere about that is good. 8 is okay. 9 or 10 is better. 11 or 12 is very good. Basically, it gives you a good deal of dynamic range in your music. Now, different genres, it'll be a slightly different number, but really, you're starting to get silly when you're talking about a dynamic range of 4 or 5, because that's really, really, really crushed sounding music and is really fatiguing to listen to. So I hope that gives you at least something of an answer there, Mike. But again, I suggest go check out my 2-part video on the project page in my Studio One 3.5 series. And I go into a little bit more detail there than I can in a live stream. So I hope that helps. Let's go and check out and see if that has helped. Mike says, I'll check those out. As a quick thought, I'm doing a master of a live 2-track recording of a friend's band. Yeah, so I hope that helps you there, mate. Okay. Beatrice says, is this in mono or stereo? What, right now? Am I in mono or stereo? That's a good question. Google Hangouts, I think, broadcasts in stereo, which is what I'm using, but I'm not sure. We'd have to play some audio to test that theory, so we can do that. We can play some of this track here. And you guys can tell me whether it's mono or stereo at your end, because certainly for me, I'm hearing it pre-broadcast. So I'm going to hear it in stereo, so I'm not quite sure what you're going to hear it in. So let's test the theory and play a little bit of this.
And I am, and I'm staring at my phone. Don't have no plan. I can't wait for.
All right, so I mean that's probably not necessarily the fairest test because that section of the song is pretty much everything is pretty much in mono. Let's try.
My Chanel, do you not know? No matter where you go, we'll walk hand in hand into our promised land.
All right, so hopefully that was a bit better for you there. MJN says mono. Miles says mono. Can I pan the mains? Well, there's no pan on the main. As you can see here, there's no pan. It's just volume. So no, I cannot pan the mains, and I do have a binaural pan on here already, which is set to 126%, so giving a little bit more width, but it's certainly not set to mono. So yeah, it may well be that this is all being summed to mono by Google Hangouts, because Google Hangouts was never really designed to do audio. Google Hangouts was just basically designed for somebody to do a presentation of some kind. So basically, they're only expecting that a person would just be talking into a mic and doing a PowerPoint presentation. I think that's the share screen thing. That's all it was designed to do. So it may well be that they set it to mono. But I do know that YouTube as a whole broadcasts in stereo, as you will find from Johnny Gibe's broadcast. But I would suggest that Google Hangouts, which is what I'm using, is mono. But there we go. So sorry about that. Hopefully in the foreseeable future, so maybe in the next 12 months, 18 months maybe, we may well hopefully be moving house. And if that happens, hopefully we'll have access to fiber optic broadband, which means I can do proper broadcasts in stereo at 1080p HD, which is what I want. So we'll see about that. So I hope that is all helpful for you guys. We've got 14 people here. This is awesome. Woodbeast is here. He says, just saw that you're live. Yes, I am indeed live and dangerous. So I'm going to stop sharing now. We can always go back and look at something else in Studio One. I'll keep Studio One open. So Raina's saying, hi, Woodbeast. That's cool. All right, any other questions? Seeing as we're in kind of question mode, really. And actually, as it happened, I was going to talk a little bit about mastering anyway, which is cool. And I was going to talk about dynamic range and the importance of preserving your dynamic range, so that we avoid getting into loudness wars territory, which you don't want to do, even if you're doing EDM with a slamming kick drum. You don't want to be making your music so ear-splittingly loud all the time, because basically after about 15 seconds your listener, even if they're dancing away, their ears are going to get exhausted and they're not going to want to listen anymore, because your ears after a certain volume threshold anyway starts to compress. Anyway, it's a built-in safety feature of your ears. Bobby Booth says, looking for harmonica loops, know where to get it. Oh, you might find some in Studio One. Let's go take a look. Let's go to the start page. Let's go create a new song. We'll do an empty song. Let's have a look and see what we got. Let's try a search for an instrument. You never know. If I type in harmonica, a folder called harmonica. which doesn't want to open. That's interesting. Okay. Don't know. That's a very good question. There's some interesting loops, but I don't think there's anything that you want here. There's this interesting thing. I have no idea what that was. Yeah, I don't actually know. We could have a look in the blues category and see what we have. There's drum loops there, but it doesn't look like there's anything else. I'm sure that there is actually a harmonica instrument in Studio One, but I don't think there are any loops, to be honest. You're probably going to have to do a little bit of a hunt on Google to try and find that. Because I am not finding, I mean, even if I look in woodwinds, I'm not finding anything here. We got some sax, we got some flute. Yeah. Yeah, nothing there of any help to you. By the look of it, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. MJN says, have you tried Splice? Yes, there's another good option, actually. Rainer says, I lost the send option of a stipe. I don't know. Oh, a stripe? I don't know what that is either. Send option of a stripe. Don't know what that is. Peter says, I got a Studio One question. Sometimes my headphones stop working and I have to change the output from main to headphones. Usually I can use both at the same time. Your headphones stop working and I have to change the output from main to headphones. That could be an interface issue there, Peter. I think. Yeah, I think maybe you are having an interface issue there. What have you got your headphones plugged into? Woodby says, do you mean free or paid loops? And Skip is here. Good evening to you, Skip. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I don't know. Yeah, it's good evening. It's tea time for you guys. Raina says, when I go to the mix, there is only possible to take plugins direct and not on the send. It was only possible to take plugins direct and not on the send. That sounds like an effects channel. That sounds like you've created an effects channel to me. That's what that sounds like. That sounds like to me you have let me get a song going. Let me close this. Let me close this too. No. Let me go to oh, I've done this again. I just opened the same thing. Close. Thank you. There we go. So you should have sends like this on every channel. And if you don't have sends, then it's because you've got one of not one of these guys, because that's a bus. Let me create an effects channel. Here we go. So on effects channels and on VCAs, if I create a VCA as well. Oh, that just changed to a VCA. Oh no, it didn't. It just moved along. There we go. So on VCAs and on effects channels, you do not have sends. A VCA also does not have inserts because a VCA is a volume controller. That's all it does. It doesn't do anything else. An effects channel you basically send to the effects channel. This is your return. All right. So in the case of, let's say these drums here, and I have, I don't know, let's say I've got, let's put analog delay on there just for fun. Let's say I've got analog delay on there, and let's say for some ridiculous reason I want these drums to go there. Then I choose FX1 from the send, and now it is sending to FX1. And there's no send. You cannot send an effects channel on to something else in Studio One. Well, actually, technically, there is a way to do it, but that's beyond the scope of this question. But yes, the only channels in Studio One that do not have a send section are VCAs and effects channels. So check that that's the issue you've got there. Okay. Raina says, no, I lost the send in the normal channel. Well, that shouldn't happen. Every channel has a send section, apart from those types. So I don't know why that would be the case. Let's go back and see what else is going on here. Skip is very, very helpfully helping me out here, taking some answering some questions to do with the Studio 192, which is cool. Don't have one of those yet. Skip says, if you have a full-size 192 with 2 headphone outputs, they can be configured differently. Does this happen when you plug into the same headphone out? Yeah, so Rainer, I'm not quite sure why you've lost the send in the normal channel, other than something funky has happened to your normal channel. Because when I'm looking here, I have sends in every channel apart from VCA and effects channels. So yeah, not really quite sure what's going on there. Would that be in automation mode? No, automation mode does not affect the sends here. Yeah. The only other thing I can think of is that perhaps these have got shifted down the bottom here. That's the only other thing I can think of, is maybe try extending or minimizing your channels. Maybe they're like this or something. I don't know how you've got it set. Maybe your sends are all the way down here, and that's why you can't see them, because you can actually just tuck them away under there. Look, see? So maybe that's the deal that's going on there for you, and that's why you don't seem to have them. They are there. It could be that they're just tucked away. And in either case, you can just make them thin like this, and then just open up at the side like that, and then they should definitely be there. If you check this way round and they are there, then I suspect that the issue is that in the tool view, these have just got tucked in underneath here. Okay? That's what I think has happened. Tra-la, I could be right. Stephen says, drag the channel above the insert and expand. Sends are hidden if you mix window to short. Yes. Rainer says, no, it must be a setting problem. And Joe Gilder is here. Good to see you, Joe, my friend. Welcome to my little live stream. Glad you're here. We're just chewing the fat and talking bits and pieces about Studio One. So I'm really glad you're here, Joe. Thank you for coming to my humble abode for the first time. This is about as close, I think, as you have got to my house. So, Joe, I'm going to show you around a little bit. So I am going to go back here and I'm going to stop sharing the screen, and you can see my pretty face now. Hang on, what's going on here? There we go. You should now be able to see me. Hello. Yeah, I have to do things on a slightly low budget fashion here, Joe, I'm afraid, because I have very, very, very slow upload speed, because I'm using very crappy phone cable. Basically, my internet is going down a phone cable. So I have just about 1 meg per second upload speed. So this is, yeah, it's as good as it gets. So yeah, so this is my studio, Joe. Welcome. Because I don't think you've actually seen my studio before. So a little treat for you. Joe says, working well. Thank you, mate. Appreciate it. So anyone got any other questions? Rainer, I'm sorry, I can't seem to help you with your little problem with your sends. You did send me a picture, which I'm going to go and check just now. Yeah, I think what's happened, looking at your picture, Rainer, is exactly what I just demonstrated there. Is I think the issue you've got is that your sends have got tucked down underneath the top of the actual channels, and you just need to pull those up like I showed. I can show it again and see if they're there. The other thing you can do is go to the short view of the mixer, and then there's a little arrow that appears. I can show you that too. I go back to sharing screen again, and hopefully in just a second you should be able to see this. We are working with a considerable delay, folks. So sorry about that. That's just the way it is with the good old internet. Alrighty, so I think what you've got here is my sends are here. I think yours have got tucked under there. And that's why you can't, that's why it appears that you can't see them. So you're going, I've got no sends, where are they? They're here. If you move your mouse to the top of your channels, see how it changes look. And you've got an up and down arrow. There they are, see? And then if I shrink those down a bit and bring those up so they're level with my post over there. If that's not happening for you, shrink down by pressing the small large button over here. And then you should have these little white arrows appear. And then you just click those and it expands, and you should have your sends there and your inserts there as well. So check that. Check those things first and see if that doesn't fix your problem for you. Okay. Peter says, Skip, I appreciate your help, man. Hopefully it'll work. Yeah, I hope so too, Peter. I hope you get that headphone issue sorted out. MGN says, hey guys, give the stream a like. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Giving my stream a like is always a good thing because it just helps me. Helps my standing with YouTube. Joe says, Johnny, my kids all got big smiles on their faces when they heard you say my name. That's awesome. Oh, I love that. My kids are right next door. Literally the other side of this wall, sound asleep at the moment. It's 1:45 in the morning here. So that's really nice that your kids got a smile on their face. It must be tea time over there. That's cool. Peter says, I like my delay set to dotted 8s. Okay, so you guys are talking about delays now. MGN says, my kids do too. Well, that's nice. Actually, Joe, if you think back to when you were doing Ask Joe That was at my tea time, so my kids got to see you in your studio doing Ask Joe, and they used to really enjoy watching that. Joe Gilders says, Night Owl Lipsham. Yes, I'm afraid I am, mate. Yeah, I regularly work until 2 a.m., sometimes later. And then I have to be up at 6 in the morning to get the kids to school for 8:30. So yeah. And then I come back home and my mind is just like a puddle in my forehead. John Wilkins is here. Good to see you, John. He says, Joe, you are lucky my kids bow their heads in shame when Mr. Lipsham shouts at me. Since when have I shouted at you, John? Seriously, mate. You got to be on Johnny's good side. I don't have a bad side, I don't think. I pay him lots of money to be nice to me. Yeah. We need to talk about next month's check, Joe. Okay, Raina. So you've got that fixed, have you? Raina says yes, all good now. I'm back in live. Thanks. Oh, that's cool. I hope you got that fixed. Whitby says, Joe, did you hear about JL's birthday wish? And Joe says, no. Okay, my birthday wish. Well, my birthday was in October, on October 9th. I was 42 in October. And I did a live stream on my birthday, and we were talking, and I talked about the fact that I've not been over to the States for 10 years, 11 years. And so I've not seen my sister in all of that time. And she stays in Chicago. And I've just not been able to afford to get over. I used to be a very frequent visitor. Like every 18 months or so. I used to go over, sometimes less time, it would depend. Sometimes folks would book me for gigs in New York, so I would go and play, a string of shows in New York, and then fly back. So I'd be in New York for a week or Chicago for a week. So I've not been back for all that time. So I've not seen my sister for 11 years, and I've not seen her kids, who are they've started school now. So I would dearly love to get across to see my sister and her family, and also catch up with some of you guys. To actually see you guys in person would be amazing. I don't know how, I have no idea how we would possibly ever get that, because you guys are all over the United States or you're in Europe. So I have no idea, but I would love to get across there and meet my US friends like Johnny Gibe and Dave Vignola, and of course you, Joe, and Mike and Skip, and all of my friends over at Baton Rouge, at Personas. I'd love to get over there, but it costs about, I think, about £1,600 to get over there and back, and have a little bit of spending money. And I would have to sleep on people's sofas to make it work, because I couldn't, I don't think I could afford a hotel getting over there. Joe says, do it. Yes, I would love to. I would absolutely love to. It's the finances that are kind of somewhat prohibitive at the moment. And Joe says, I need to come to Scotland one day too. You certainly do, my friend, because we have beers to share. Definitely. And you can come and check out my tiny studio. Woodby says, Joe, he needs help. Donate. Thank you, Beast. Yeah, and Woodby says we all should. Well, you know what? I'm not actually soliciting for donations. Not at all. It's entirely down to you guys. If that's what you would like to do, then do it. I'm not going to stop anybody from helping me achieve my goal. But I'm not asking anyone to. So there you go. And Joe says, beers. Yes, absolutely. Edinburgh's finest Innis and Gunn IPA. I think you can get that in America. Yes, you can get that in America because I've actually had that in a pub in Chicago. It was weird. It was weird being in Chicago. I forget what the name of the pub was, but I was in a pub in Chicago drinking my local beer. And Innocent Gun Brewery is literally a 15-minute bus ride from here. That was weird. Joe says, if Presonus does another Presonus fair, you should schmooze to fly you over. Well, yeah, that all kind of depends whether they restart the Presonus fair. It'd be great if they did. It was a shame they stopped that. Joe says, say hi to Owen, Maggie, and Lila. Owen, Maggie, and Lila, hi, folks. I hope you are having a very nice evening. And I hope you can understand my Scottish accent. I get to see you guys crop up on Gildercam quite a bit, so it's very cool. Deirdre says, we have tried to start donating. Yes, I have had some donations, and I thank you very much for those donations. Woodbeast has been championing the cause and leading the way. And you have no idea how much I appreciate it. It's going to take a wee while, I think, before we hit the target, but hopefully we'll hit the target and I'll be able to get over there. That'd be awesome. They loved that. Well, that's great. I appreciate that, Joe. That's fine, Joe. Thank you so much for coming and being on the stream. It's great. Yeah, thank you. Have I messed around with the Presonus channel strips, the paid ones? Do you mean the VT1 and the RC500? I have, actually. They're pretty cool, actually. The compressors take a little bit of getting used to because, particularly the VT1, I think the compressor is a little bit aggressive. And so it takes a little while to dial it in to a point where it's kind of what I want. But they are pretty cool channel strips. The EQs are nice. Yeah, I've played about with them since I got them. Because I think I won. I think it was a contest a couple of years ago. And I won the VT1 and the RC500, I think, on that occasion. But yeah, they are very cool. As I say, they take a little bit of dialing in, but getting used to. I think they might be modeled after some Presonus channel strips, hardware channel strips. I think. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they might be modeled after the. I think there's a RC500 hardware channel strip, I think. And I think one of those is modeled after. I'm not sure which one is which. Whether one's modeled after one of the ADL channel strips. I'm not sure. I could probably find out, though. Anyway, that's piqued my curiosity. I'm probably going to have to find out now. Let me just scroll back up and see what I've missed. John Wilkins says something that I don't understand. Talking about beer. Not entirely sure. Wibby says it's a charming accent, JL. Thank you. That's very kind. Yes, I kind of have a southeast Edinburgh accent, but because I've lived in different parts of the UK, it's kind of polluted a little bit with different accents. Like there's a little bit of London in there. If you listen carefully, you can hear it. There's a little bit of Manchester as well. Sometimes that comes through, and sometimes a little bit of Liverpool as well. That comes through every now and then, and maybe a bit of Birmingham as well. I like Birmingham. Birmingham's a lovely place. Everyone sounds so happy, deliriously happy. Especially when Birmingham the local football team, they win, everybody goes, yay. I'm sure people from Birmingham are actually much more cheerful than that. Skip says ADL 600 and 700 as well as the RC 500 are the hardware units the plugs were modeled after. Bingo! Thank you, Skip. So I was at least 70% right there, I think. That's cool. And Peter says Ozzy, yeah, Ozzy Osbourne, the happiest person in music. So we've got 18 people here in the room just now, and it's coming up on 1 a.m. Joe says, that's cool. I own the ADL 600 and 700. Yes. I would actually really quite liked to have got one of those till I saw the price tags. I thought, yeah, maybe not. And they are discontinued, I believe, the ADLs, as far as I'm aware. The RC 500 as well, I think. Which is a shame because from what I've heard of them being used on the way in and otherwise, they sound really, really nice, really cool. So it would have been nice to have one of those. So you're a lucky man, Joe. All right, we are getting close to the end of the show, folks. We've got about 6 minutes left. So anyone got any further questions before we wrap up? That'd be cool. Now we are dealing with maybe I think about a 15-second delay here between me and the chat. So I apologize for the kind of pauses in talking because I'm trying to catch questions and comments. Somebody sent me a message. Who was that? Oh, was that you, Skip? Okay. Telling me they're discontinued. Thank you. Appreciate that. So we've got about 6 minutes left. Any last questions? Get them in now. Type with your fastest fingers. And we'll get those answered. MJN says there's an ADL 670 on Google for 19,000. Joe asks, what genre of music is your wheelhouse? Like ideal project client. Okay, most of what I do is jazz music, as you would probably guess already. But I also do acoustic music, folk music. So I have like singer-songwriters quite a lot as clients. So yeah, so folk, pop, light rock, jazz, those kind of broadly acoustic areas is kind of the stuff that I mostly deal with. Though that said, in this tiny room, in which I can fit me and maybe two other people, with any degree of comfort, I did have a client in here who wanted to record horns for his song. So we'd track rhythm in here, and I did all the keyboard work, and I played. I don't know if you can see it. Hang on, my headphone cable is getting tangled. I played this guy here. This is my Ibanez AGR 70. And it's an absolute beauty of an electric guitar. I love it, and I played that. I think it's the first time I've ever recorded myself for a client playing guitar, because I'm not exactly a great guitar player. And I played some fretless bass, and then he said that he would like some horns on it. So I knocked up some horn arrangements in Notion, and I hired the best trumpet player, the best alto sax player, and the best trombonist I knew in Edinburgh. And we got them in here, and we had to record them one at a time. and it actually worked out really well, better than I thought, because I thought I was going to have all sorts of aligning issues to do after the fact, but actually we didn't. The guys really nailed their parts, and it worked out well. So I have had larger bands come in and work with me in here, but we kind of have to break a lot of rules and think outside the box to make it work in here. But yeah, so acoustic, folk music, jazz, that kind of stuff. That's the most that I do. Although at the moment, interestingly enough, I am working on a really interesting fusion record with a guy down in England, and it's kind of a fusion between how would you put it? It's kind of funky house with a kind of little bit of a lounge jazz twist to it. So I'm playing a lot of Fender Rhodes and through phasers and that kind of stuff. But it's got like house beats and that kind of stuff. Works quite well. That's a bit of a strange one. Let's see. Stephen Greenwood says, have you used the Slate mastering plugin? I do have the Slate Everything bundle. I'm gradually working my way through using some of them. I use quite a lot of the compressors and EQs, and they are absolutely awesome. I think the Slate bundle is brilliant. I love it. John says, I hadn't thought about you mixing in that small room. How well do your mixes translate? Well, John, if you listen to my EP, belonging to Tomorrow, have a listen to those mixes and tell me what you think, as to how well they translate out of this room and into your speaker system. I think because this is a small room, inevitably I'm going to have low-end issues, because that's essentially the nature of small rooms. Because, you know, a 40 hertz bass note is going to be 16 feet long, I think. And from here, from where I'm sitting to the door there, is probably about 7 or 8 feet. So by the time a bass note is hitting that door, it's not even fully, it's like only half developed. And then it's going to come back off the door and back into the room. So yeah, so low end is a little bit of an issue. But I have a way around that. When I'm wanting to deal with the low end in my mix, I switch my speakers off and I use these guys. Because the low end on these headphones is pretty balanced, pretty even, so I can pretty much trust it. And I know these headphones really, really well, and I know this room really, really well, so I know what I need to compensate for. And this room is treated acoustically, but, you know, as with any room that's never designed to be a studio, there are always going to be issues that you just can't get past because of the shape of the room and the materials in which out of which the walls are made. So you're always going to have those kind of issues to deal with, and it's just a case of know your room, know your speakers, know your headphones, and therefore you learn what you need to compensate for. So if you know that you're going to have a lot of bass build-up in the room that is not real, not really present in your mix, then you know that you need to not believe that extra bass build-up and trust your judgment and reference with headphones. Also reference with a pair of these guys. This is a good way to check your mixes as well. Check them on a variety of different sources in the same space that you're mixing in. That would be my opinion. So I don't know if Joe is still here. But Woodby says, Johnny is a music expert, in my opinion. His knowledge is great. Well, Woodby, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And my good friend from Recording Studio 9 has just joined us. Batcher, how are you, mate? Hope you're well. And he is all the way over in Sydney, Australia. Joe is still here. Good. He is all the way. Vachi is all the way over in Sydney, Australia. And the England cricket team, both the men's team and the England women's team, have just started their tours over there. The Ashes has begun. If you are American, you have no idea what I've just said. If you're European, you probably have less idea about what I've just said. I'm talking about cricket, and I'm talking about the Test match series between England and Australia that's been going on for the last. Well, it's a series that is played in Australia and also in England. 5-day test matches. Each time one goes over to the other side of the world. Yes, we have you have crickets. Yeah, those are the chirping variety, Joe. But you do have a cricket league in the United States. I know that much because I went to a cricket club in the Chicago area. I think it was on the eastern suburbs of Chicago. There was a club. I forget the name of the club there. But yeah, I know you have what they call Major League Cricket out there, which is cool. It's a growing sport. But yeah, so we have this tournament, and it's called the Ashes, and there's a great rivalry between England and Australia. And I'm Scottish, so I'm wonderfully neutral. I love the rivalry. Woodby says they are great bait, Joe. Yes, crickets are great bait. Cricketers are just as great bait as well. All right, folks, we are pretty much at the end of the show because it is after 1 o'clock in the morning, and I have a couple of things to finish up here. And before I shut down the studio and get myself to bed, otherwise I will not be able to wake up in the morning. John Wilkins says a cricket club. Imagine that. Well, you know what? In the UK, there are thousands upon thousands of cricket clubs. In India, there are tens of thousands of cricket clubs. In South Africa, there are just as many. Peter says, Joe, since you're here, do you think there'll be some more videos of you writing songs? That's a great question. And Joe indeed answers and says, I'm sure there will. Well, I certainly hope so, because your little songwriting series that you had there, Joe, for your EP songs was really, really good, really insightful. I actually learned much about your songwriting process. And I actually learned that you and I actually have some similarities in our approach to songwriting, and some interesting differences. So maybe you and I could talk offline about that, and maybe we could think about doing some videos or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas here in public. Hope you don't mind. Vachid Recording Studios 9 says, I'm a great fan of Joe. Well, that's cool. Me too. I think most people here are as well. Whippy says, Skip, I have not watched an NFL game all season. I gave up. Yeah. Yeah, I gave up on the NFL several years ago. I still watch ice hockey, though. When we get it. We don't always get it here. We get like a few selected matches, and then we get most of the Stanley Cup finals, which are great, but they like start at 2 o'clock in the morning here, so not great. But if I am awake and up and about, then I will watch an NHL game. Recording Studios 9 says, Joe and Johnny working together, maybe. You never know. You never know. Anyway, it is 7 minutes past 1 in the morning, so I'm going to end the show there after that long dramatic pause. Thank you very much for coming, every single one of you. I really appreciate you coming to my live streams. and keeping me entertained. And I hope I was able to answer some of your questions. And I hope that you're finding these live streams useful and helpful. If you are, please click that like button. And if you still have any questions after the fact, after the show, then feel free, stick a comment down below, or send me an email to johnny@jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, and we can talk offline there. Or you can send me a private message via Facebook. If you're not a Facebook friend of mine, just search for me. Just search for Jonny Lipsham and you will find me on Facebook. I believe I am the only Jonny Lipsham on Facebook. So you should find me quite easily. Pray for world peace, guys, and donate to Jonny. Thank you, Woodbeast. You're a legend for keeping that up, mate. I really appreciate it. Joe says, sleep tight, pumpkin. Thank you. And folks, have yourselves a great rest of your evening. Enjoy your dinners if they're not cold from having listened to me talking for an hour. Skip says, Joe, we need some of your video contributions on the Presonus forums. Yes. Getting some Joe Gilder videos up on the Presonus forums would be awesome. I've got my Presonus Symphonic Orchestra series up there. I've got, I think some of my EQ videos are up there. My compression videos are up there. And my Studio One 3.5 series, I believe, is also up on the Presonus forum. And at the community university section of the forum, in the I think it's the recording section, the subsection there is where all the videos located. So yes, it'd be great to have some Joe Gilder videos there too. All right, folks, I'm going to bid you all a very good evening, and I will see you around the wires on Facebook and on YouTube. I've got some new series, mixing series videos starting very, very soon. So they'll be going up once a week, and my live streams will be going up again every Sunday night, unless you hear otherwise, folks. I will be doing my live stream at 6 p.m. Central every Sunday. And yeah, so that's what's going to be going up on YouTube over the course of the next few weeks. All right, folks, I will bid you all a very good night. Bye for now. Where's the off button? Oh, there it is.